setup of what we call Quality Manager is done in the TransLution configurator along with everything else. And we've sort of got, we've got mainly these forms for the setup functions. So the first thing we do is what we've called test methods, which are really the tests that will be performed on items. And we group them together into categories, which is purely for reporting purposes. You can allocate whichever tests you like to a specific product. So I've defined in my demo 3 categories. The demo really has 3 parts to it. We do quality tests on a bulk product, which is wheat. We also do tests on discrete items, which is we've defined just for valves. So we've defined some tests for valves. And then we have another function that's kind of an extension of the standard Quality Manager, which is more to let you capture results around the environment as opposed to a specific product. So I want to do a batch run. Is my floor clean? What's the ambient temperature in the room? Is the equipment ready for production? That kind of thing. So those are the 3 areas that we've defined in the demo. So we build up groups of tests or lists of tests. And these are purely tests that effectively stand alone. We then group those tests together to say which tests do we want to perform in a group. So, for example, for my wheat grading, I start with a list of all the available tests, and I say for wheat grading, these are the 5 things that I want to test, and that's the sequence I want to test them in. And I can do that for my valves, the things I want to test and the sequence to test them in, and then the inline test. Of course, as a demo, these are very small. One of our customers does multi-core cables, and we've got 40, 50 tests per product that they want to do. But obviously for a demo, keeping them small is the easiest. So I've now said that when I'm testing wheat, I want to do those specific list of tests. When I'm testing belts, I want to do another specific list of tests. I also need to define the products that I will be testing. And again, we define products and product categories. And there's nothing really particularly tricky about this. There's a product category, and then each product has a name and a description. The reason for the available indicator throughout as opposed to just an active indicator is that exists on tests as well, so that you can predefine tests, but they may not necessarily be available for use until a time that they're actually released. And then the last thing that we do is we define what our expected results would be. So we select our product. We say that we'd like to do the wheat grading against that product. And it comes up with a list of tests that we've defined, and then a mechanism for defining our expected results. Now, the most common result type would be a numeric result type, but we support drop-downs and text. Text being free format entry. Drop-down is obviously a list of items. We've got various bits of information on the form when we define numeric results. So, starting at the bottom, or the outside, and working my way in, we've got our capture ranges. This would be, for example, if, for example, you're weighing a sample and you know that the scale has a maximum weight range of 50, or in this case, 100, if they enter 1,000, they've clearly made a typo. It's physically an impossible result, so we say to them, this is an impossible result, please check. That's all that error does. Then we have an inner and an outer range for our limits. And really, the reason for that is that we found that a number of our customers, they have a specification range that they supply to their customer against, which is generally the outer range. But they try to do their manufacturing spec to a tighter range, that if they do have slight variations, the product still meets the customer's requirements. And that would be called the inner range. So that's really the 6 ranges that you've got there, the 6 options for validating the data that you want to enter.
Okay.
Sorry?
No, that's fine. It's good. It's good.
Okay. And then when you're capturing your results, we have the option, you'll see that there's a grid form for results capture that we could show additional columns that you could then allow supervisors to enter information, which would then also be logged. We also have an immediate fail option. Now in our bulk environment, that's not been used at all, because generally once they're measuring the quality of wheat, they already have it. They can't, it's not really a reject option. But the immediate fail is really, if I capture a specific result and I have an immediate fail flag against it, I'm not even allowed to capture further results, because clearly the sample has failed and there's no point wasting anybody's time testing further. That's what the immediate fail does. So that's really the setup from defining your products, your tests, and the expected results for them.
Renee, just one thing before you move on. So we defined tests there per product.
No, you define well, yes, you initially define a range of tests that are independent of anything. They're just
no, I get that. But then, then once we've got the test method understood and captured, we then go to the parts of the product in the CISPRO sense, the stock code, I guess.
Yes.
Now, is there any way we can define those tests at a broader range, say at a product class level or at some other grouping index level, as opposed to being specific to a stock code, to a part?
No, the tests are linked to a specific product. Now, that product doesn't have to be a CISPRO stock code. It generally makes sense if it is. But no, they're linked to a product, not a product class.
Could it be a product class? In essence, if it was a particular type of item that required a particular test and a set of methods.
Yeah, because we typically find that in our customer set, we typically find that they might have 5 different types of products, each with 1,000 products in them, that would all require the same tests.
Those products aren't the unique samples that you're talking about.
No, actual things.
Okay, so we're not talking at a different, okay. And then each of those 1,000 products would then have however many samples you want to test.
Yeah, correct. It's just in terms of the test definition. I want to be able to say that that this range of parts follows this test regimen. Without necessarily having to define. Without necessarily having to define that
a product for every product within the system.
A product for every product within the system. You see.
I'm just trying to think how we've structured it, because I'm sure I could come up with something that would allow us to do that, because the product in our database here does not have to link on a one-to-one basis to a CISPRO product.
Okay. So if we could link on a one-to-many basis on a system.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Cool.
So I could work around it by using that. Yes.
Okay. Fine. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. The next thing is we define. Well, in fact, let me show you how it looks when you capture the results, and then we can take it from there. So I've just built a workflow in my demo called Quality Demo. This is because Russell's seeing you next week. Am I right, Darren?
I'll have a call with him next week. We're actually down at Link in Southampton.
Oh, so you would actually see. Okay, no, because this is the demo database that he has. So for my wheat quality, I've for demo purposes, I've pre-built a sample. We normally have a scanner function or some mechanism like that for people to be able to build their samples. And then I know that when I build the sample, I have to specify the product or category that the sample belongs to, so that it knows which set of tests to bring up. So there's the tests that we defined previously. Now, if I try and enter data that's outside of the capture range, it tells me that. If I enter data that's outside of the inner band, but within the outer band, it's a red line. Within range is a green line, and so on and so forth. Let's do this. And basically, It captures all the results. Unless you've marked it as an immediate fail, it lets you capture all the results. We can specify the structure of this form to show the user the specification limits or not. And we can also specify the structure of the form to show line colors or not, if it's a blind test and you don't want to give them indication of whether they've passed or not, or whether the sample has passed the test or not. And yeah, you basically go through, capture all the results for the sample. We obviously save those results against the sample along with the expected results at that time, and use that data then to generate our reports.
What would a typical sample be? Would that be a job number, a purchase order, a sales order?
It really depends. We've got two kinds of situations. So in the example where it's the Premier situation where they receive batches of wheat, the sample is a combination of their purchase order number and some other factors such as the date and the delivery and the load that it was delivered on. Whereas in the guys doing the wire manufacturing, it's their production batch. And we've got some people who do samples on specific individual items. So then it would be a serialized item.
Yes, you don't lock it into anything. It's just a free format scan sample number or alpha to represent something.
The sample barcode that you enter here has to exist as a valid sample, and I can show you that when you define a sample, you have to say that it belongs to this product and this is the barcode for the sample.
Yep.
So we generally have a scanner type function, particularly in the case of Premier, for example, where they scan. This is the purchase order, this is the truck registration, and this is the load that they delivered on, and we build a sample barcode. And only valid sample barcodes are accepted here.
Yep.
We also have, as always, we have some custom validation. So you can run custom validation against the sample barcode, that even if it exists within our database, you may want to first have something else done to it before you allow it to be scanned at Quality Manager, things like that. We allow for custom validation to be done at that point as well.
Okay.
If you capture only some of the results, you can come back at any point and continue capturing results. We also have an option where there's an override, where we now show all the information and we allow a user to override, which is obviously also logged as to who did the override and when it was done. And this would be a supervisor function only, obviously.
Okay. Well, someone probably maybe keyed in the results incorrectly and the true results have been returned, or they've taken a second sample and retested.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then using that information, these are actual reports from our project we did at Premier, and using that information, we have done, there's the certificate of conformance, certificate of acceptance, or certificate of analysis.
Okay, are these dropped straight out of TransLution, or are these run separately?
We built these using SSRS. The data is dropped straight out of TransLution, but we built these reports for the customer. Okay. So we don't have a library of pre-built reports. We've got a couple of samples such as these that we use for demo purposes. So yeah, it's really just to show that all the information does exist in the database, and we've got these two as our demo reports that we pull out using that information.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's really a case of we've built a system that's fairly flexible in terms of allowing data to be captured in various ways. We've built in.
We probably just need to agree a demo set or a test method, a set of test method categories by industry.
Well,
Yes, I think so, and that's basically what I've done here, and I'm more than willing to extend this to suit some of your industries and categories. What I've done for some other customers is I've built functions whereby they can generate sample barcodes for themselves to use in their demo. In this demo, actually, all I do is that custom stored procedure I told you about. When I scan the sample barcode, I check if all the results have been captured for that sample, and then I clear them, simply so that Russell can reuse the same barcode every time. But obviously, that's not necessarily the ideal that everybody would want in a demo. Yeah, and I would think that you'd probably want us to, because generally what happens is on the results capture form, on the save button, we can call our report viewer and generate and print out some reports that would be required. So that might be something you'd like to add to a demo as well.
Yeah, how would we generate, if we were to absorb this demo into our demo set, how would we generate reports from within? Would we have to set up SQL Server reporting services?
No, we've got well, there are two options. You can use SQL reporting services, but actually what we generally do is we've got what we call the TransLution report viewer, which basically embeds some Crystal utilities. So you can run a Crystal report without having Crystal installed anywhere locally. And then you can either print the report or view the report on the form or print it to a printer. And I'm guessing for the demo, you probably just want to view the report. So we have a utility to do that.
Okay.
So for the demo, we could build you a Crystal report. And in fact, one of the ones I showed you was a Crystal report. We could modify it to suit your requirements. And then when they save the sample results, print the report or view the report.
Yeah. Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Jeff, what do you think? We could lift and shift and put that into the standard demo.
Yeah. I think the fact that it accommodates what normally trips us up. To be honest, there's all kinds of ways we can record test results on a job or a purchase order, very simply and crudely for bulk and for discrete items. But where we always get tripped up is for the environmental piece. So
right, yes.
that function that kind of rounds it off. Presumably we can get in there. You've got your upper action limits, your lower action limits, so we can run off cursory statistical process control type reports from here. Have we got free access to that data?
Yes.
Okay. So those are just stored in tables inside the TransLution database.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, what makes our the environment tests slightly different to the test that I've just shown you is that it doesn't require a pre-existing sample to have been defined. Of course,
and it shouldn't. That's absolutely right. I get that.
So you have the ability on this form to build 3 or 4 prompts. Yep. We've had a prompt called the batch and the date. You specify random data, you accept that, and then it creates effectively a sample.
Okay, perfect. Yep.
With the tests that you've predefined, I've called them inline testing and your results. And in this case, we've allowed for a custom comment to be added. So that's exactly what we've done to avoid that, but I need a pre-built sample to be able to test things that are not actually a product. And this does that.
That's perfect. And Darren, that is exactly